Good day and welcome. This is a masterclass on collections, and it's Google Plus collections, or as some people are calling them, Google Collections. I'm Martin Shervington. Right, let us begin with a quick look at the contents for this course. We've got an introduction section, then we look at things from a strategic point of view, and then tactical, then operational. And then we just have a couple of final thoughts. Begin. Introduction, background on me. You probably know me from Google Plus, but more importantly, I want to show you a little bit of stats that I have on the million blog visits, plus on my website, and also on the YouTube channels as well. But let me show you a glimpse behind the scenes here. So this is Plus Your Business. 350,000 people during that time have visited the blog. That's unique users. And then we've got 764,000 there for ms.com, which I don't blog on very often. So the reason I say this is that ultimately I look at getting the right people to engage with me on social, but more so looking at the blog. So even though we're talking about collections, keep in mind that collections can be used for amplification of your content, getting you more people seeing it, clicking through, visiting your website, as well as potentially getting search results and giving you a long tail on your content too. Okay. Now, that is just to set the scene, because it isn't just about social, even though this particular module is going to be very focused on that. You know that social and search, in my mind, are highly related. But what we're going to do is begin with some real practical, just in case you haven't got this yet, information. In the document that you'll have alongside this course, there's a guide to the new Google Plus desktop. There's also a mobile app video, and there's a guide to setting up collections. The reason I'm giving you this a bit like a fire hose, rapid fire set of information, is that this is a why to, what to, and how best to course more than it is showing you all of the functionality. However, I will show you quickly how to set up collections just in case you haven't got that information, but realize you've got extra resources available to take you through anything you don't know as well. There we go. Okay, let's now kick into strategy. So from a strategic point of view, we're going to begin with what do you want to be the authority in? And let me just say that this is going to be a rapid course. So pause at any time, go back, you've got access to this video all of the time and now that you've paid for it, so you can just revisit. But let's now look at strategy. What is strategy? Look at vision. Look at where you want to be in 3 years' time, 5 years' time. How then, when we're looking at collections, are you going to align that to your strategic direction? And I think authority is a really good way to go. If you look at this chap here, what has happened is that one of his collections has been featured, and this one happens to be on Google Plus, and that has given an enormous lift in the amount of followers. And we're going to talk about the relationship between followers and engagement, and because people are, well, you'll see they're opting in to very niche content, this guy can become known, whereas beforehand, with the amount of followers he had, he may not have been known. So Google, in other words, are promoting the content to people that are interested. Let's look at this one, Environment and Population Matters. You can see that they are also promoting a collection from a page which is Population Matters. They're promoting a collections, featuring a collections subject which is environment, and we can see that big lift, and you've got the figures on the left. And the same sort of idea here, but I'm going to go a little deeper, between aerosols. I mean, let's face it, it's not an easy sell, that aerosols. CG aerosols, not a huge follower count. And then, suddenly, this is probably my favourite one because they work out street art. Don't sell the sizzle, sell the steak. That was steak, that was that word. Street art. What a brilliant move. Because look, it's got featured by Google. It's got loads of followers that are then on it. And this is for aerosols. They only had 195 followers. But what Google have done is featured it. They've now got 48,000 followers on that particular collection, and it's cool stuff. Look, and people are engaging. 425 plus ones there, 17 plus one. Look at it. So 695 plus ones there, 30 shares. So this is really, really powerful. So just think about that. If you haven't got the followers on your own profile or your own page, Google potentially could give you a massive boost and give you what you've been waiting for, what you've been looking for in social, which is really good engagement on the right subject matters. Because all the time you can be sharing the sizzle, which is the the pictures relating to the subject, thinking a bit creatively about it, and you can be letting people know about your really cool product, like aerosols. Be careful, street art, don't get caught, or do anything illegal. Do it on your own property. Okay, now let's look at another one. Technology, 181,582 followers on this particular one from Eli Fennell. This is a collection, and you can see the engagement there. You got loads of plus ones, 166, and you got good engagement on this content. Now that's given Eli a real big boost, but also, well, beyond his follower count, he's been around for a while. He's a great fellow. But what this has done is enabled him to become firmly an authority in this niche in people's minds. And you look at the examples. He posts something on Google Cardboard, and it's a nice story. And he gets massive engagement because the people following these collections are the right people for him on those subject matters. They follow the collection, not the person. This is so important for you to know that this is why it's such a great opportunity now to get focused and get looking at serving up the right content within the right context, which is the collections. Okay, when you know what you want to be an authority in, it's a case of creating a collection and building an engaged community around it. This hasn't changed. If you want to get engagement, you engage with people. But we've now got an opportunity to engage with even more of the right people because of collections. So that was the strategy. What do you want to be an authority in? Start dreaming and know that potentially as we move into the tactics, you will be able to achieve what you want. Okay, tactics. Let's have a look. Find your passion, lead your people. People opt-in into niche content. So this is what's happening, is that people are following a specific collection because they want that content. It's not you they want. I know, sad. No. It's the collection they want. That's what they want, is the content within the collection, actually. And it's a great thing. And it means that those that have been around for a while, you don't have to do all loads of kind of like filtering with your circles and so on, even though we're going to come to that a little later. You've got a great opportunity to create the collection, to put good content in it, and to have the right people following you, and you can then lead them. But I'm going to get down into a little bit of detail now. How many collections should you create? I think 5 or 6 is a good start. Think in terms of that. Now, for me, I focus my attention on life, the universe and everything, and business, connecting the dots. If I hadn't already got a solid following, and if I wasn't getting engagement on my content, then I might approach it slightly differently. And that's the advice that I'm giving you, being totally transparent, is that I would go for 5 or 6 as a start. Don't spread yourself too thin, is what I'm saying, because you don't want to be an authority in everything. You might just go for 1 or 2 and build those up, but you want them to be good whichever way you go. Now, to create them, just in case you don't know, looking at it from a desktop point of view, you click on the collections, and then you come in and you click to create a collection, and then you choose public. Don't choose anything else unless you have a reason. If you have a reason to suggest your circles or just you or custom, which could be a circle too, that's cool. But most of the time you want your content to have the greatest reach. Always choose public. Then you're going to add the name. Now, the name of the collection, we're thinking tactically now. We're going to come a bit more into this a little later, but you're going to think tactically, what is the best name you could give? Now, you might decide to be very SEO about it and start thinking in terms of what would you call a website that could potentially surface in search, the old school way of thinking about the titles of stuff. But there's another side to this, which is what's going to be attractive, appealing, exciting for people to see as the name of that particular collection. Okay, then you come to the tagline. What reinforces, supports that collection as if it was like on a website? What would you say was the thing that describes the name of the collection? Now, it really does depend on you, but you want the two to work together. And then once you've done that, you're going to click create. And also, just remember, let's go back to strategy just for a moment. What do you want to be known for? Make sure that the collection is really supporting what you want to be known for. Okay. So if you go for an example here, We Dig Leadership. Let's say we go for We Dig Leadership, and you go, okay, a place for leaders, content for leaders, an exciting daily update with leadership tips, whatever it is. But that's the sort of thing that you want to do. Then, using this as an example, you want really good images. I've got to stress this. This has never changed, and I'm going to come to lots of examples in this presentation a little bit later. You want amazing images. You want wow. You don't want the default. Do not use the default. Absolutely no. Choose the colours that align to the subject matter. Make it sort of like feel, but it's you. Whatever you like. You want to kind of like fall in love with your collection, and every time you see it, you want to go, wow, I really enjoy looking at that. Okay. Now, importantly, you see that bottom arrow? It says people that you have in circles automatically follow this collection. Make sure it looks like that. Make sure it's slid across. You want your existing followers to follow it. Okay. Really important. They transfer across right now. Doesn't mean they're going to forever. So you want that to be like that, which I believe is the default. Okay. Let's then look. I said about images. Let's look at the importance of the top image. I'm just pausing. Dramatic pause. Look at that. Look at them. Look at which ones emotionally engage you. These are featured. These are featured by Google. Again, something we're going to come to in this presentation and how you can get there. But look at that. Look at the Golden Gate Bridge one. It's niche. It looks beautiful. It's emotional. I like that. That's what you want. You want something that gives you that response, because the more likely it is that people are going to follow when they're emotionally engaged. So that again, so important. Now, Google are featuring these collections, and they're featuring niche collections, and they're really pushing and building out this featured list. Really, really building it out. Okay, so we know the top image is important. We know the niche is important. You know that you're going to have content in there. But there's actually a full description here that somebody from Google, Sophie Bonnet, I believe, I think probably pronounce her surname, has told exactly what you need to do in order to get the collection featured. Now, let's just run through very high top level, because I want to give you a load more extra content. And you can read this. You just pause and you can read it for yourself. We can hear Benji's very excited in the background. Okay, so you've got the topic. Your collection must have a clear and consistent topic. Cover photo. Avoid a blurry or pixelated image. Unless, of course, it's on purpose. Okay, post. Minimum of 10 posts. Hook. Don't forget about the introductory sentence. Okay. Content. It's fun to mix the type of content you post into collection. Could be videos, GIFs, images, etc. Regularity. You don't have to post every day, but you need to be active. So that is what Google have said that's going to help you get your collections featured. There's also a community, which you've got that there. You've got the link in the document, and you could see that at the bottom if you want to just type it in. But you can click on the link in the document, and that is a community where you can pop in your collections and Google will check them out and potentially feature them. Now, let me just dive back actually before we move on. Let's explain about this feature collection thing. What does this mean? It means you're not on your own. It means that Google are encouraging people to follow your content because it is the right content for those people. Because I know I have suggestions for featured collections that come up in my stream or on the side of the stream on the homepage, and I regularly follow them because Google are suggesting them to be things that I'm into. So really this right now is an opportunity. If you want to increase your following, this is a great way of going. Okay, I've got to stress that. You have an opportunity right now. Next, let's have a look at the similarities between collections and communities. And in terms of look to start with, they look very similar. Let's just skip between the two. So you can see here we have the collection, life, the universe and everything. And then we have a community, which is the Plus Your Business community. Both have the images on the upper left. This is on a desktop. And you can see there's a striking resemblance. So let's look at what the differences are in terms of one concept. Collections, whether it's from your profile or from your page, only you can share into it. And if you're a page, you might have other managers on it, but it's your page or your profile that you're going to be seeing as that little face that shared it into that collection. In other words, it's only you at the moment. So, shared communities, let's call them shared communities, are ways for lots of people to share content into that one place, that one context. So looking at Plus Your Business, other people can post in there. Yeah, always read the guidelines is what I say on that one. But the basic system principle is that they are shared, let's call them, they're like shared collections. They're shared places where content can flow that beyond one person. Does that make sense? Hopefully. So I think that this is interesting, that we've got these two things. Collections are the individual ones, and communities are shared experiences where other people can post. And I think that's a really important distinction for you to have in relation to this. I'm just drumming that one home. Okay. Then, once you sort of understand that that's the fundamental difference, can just you or other people share into them? When you choose a collection or community, it comes really down to this. Do you want other people to share their content there? That's it for right now. And if you do, then you choose a community. This is when we take a little leap, though. Communities right now surface in search. Now, what I mean by that is they actually surface for the keywords for which they've been optimized. Now, I don't just mean that the individual posts surface in search. We know that that's personalized search, and the default on Google.com is private, so you're getting a different experience to other people, let's say. And you may well see your own posts, you may well see other people's posts. It's highly personalized. But let's have a look at it a little bit further. If I share somebody else's content, I can take it into search. If I share your content, I can take it into search on your behalf. So my followers may well see your content, even though they don't follow you. So hopefully you got that concept. So we're taking this, step by step down into understanding now. Eventually we'll come back around to collections, how search is indexing these posts. This is the power of the network. If I share your content, somebody else shares your content, then my followers can see your content, see my face, almost like sponsored, that I'm saying, hey, this is great content, in their search results, because it's google.com as a private default now. For google.com is private. Jumping back to communities, plus your business, if I search for that as a particular search term, the whole community is indexed for that search term. You can see it's the second result down. This is kind of important. Why is it so important? Well, this is a bit like the title of a collection, isn't it? So I'm not talking about, wow, SEO. I'm talking about the structure of how these things are getting indexed in Google. And I believe that was an incognito result as well. So it's not just the private results. Let's have a look at another one for communities. UK, if I search for photography community, then one of the links that appears is UK photography community. Now we have to understand what's happening is that communities are building up authority. So when somebody searches for something like photography community and that surfaces, then that community's got lots of posts in it, which has got lots of engagement, and that is almost certainly signaling to Google that that community deserves to surface for that particular search term. Okay, hopefully it all makes sense. Let's now look at collections again. And look at the URL structure of collections. And I'm still on the same theme. We're not jumping track. I'm just laying this down. So look at the URL structure for a collection. And then we come to the URL structure for a community. It's actually, there's the community. And you see that there. We're going to flow through. Notice that it doesn't mention a person. Okay. So the collection, the overarching URL, doesn't mention me. Okay. But the posts within the collection, they have my name attached to them because I posted them there. So you look there, that's the collection was Business Connecting the Dots, and you see that that post, which is within it, has got my name. There we go. Community. A post in the community, same structure, says Martin Sherrington, and then it says the unique URL to that particular post. But that's been posted into the community. But just as we saw there, the community itself doesn't mention me. Why wouldn't it mention me from the community context? Well, think about it. Lots of people can post into that community. So it wouldn't really be appropriate for me to somehow be directly connected with it. It's a higher level overarching principle that holds the content. Let's keep going a little bit further. Pinterest boards right now are showing up in Google search. We know this. So I just happen to have one Pinterest board with Star Wars Tuesday, and it doesn't have any pins really put on it these days, but it surfaced. There it goes on page 2. But it came up for those keywords. It's like Pinterest boards. In the early days, people were comparing Pinterest boards to collections. So we can see that the boards are surfacing in Google search. Now, Pinterest boards, I did a little research, you cannot transfer ownership of a Pinterest board as it stands right now and exit it. Okay, but you can transfer the ownership of Google Pages right now, including brand pages, could be local pages, you can transfer the ownership. Now, have a little think about this, because this might influence whether you build up your collections on your profile or your page, both of which are getting featured. If you build your collections up on your profile, maybe in time something will change and we'll be able to transfer ownership of those collections. I'm going to come a little bit more into that. But right now we know that a page that can own the collections could be sold and the collections sold with it. You can't transfer the collections from within the page, but you could sell the entire page. Interesting. And transferring the ownership of the communities is something that's already been happening. When I say transferring the ownership, I'm talking about selling them. People have been selling them. Not mentioning any particular ones in particular, but we know that this has been going on. In fact, public statements to that effect. So it's great because people are seeing these as assets. And if people value it, there's a price to be paid. So with communities, before we come to the next bits, with communities, you can transfer the ownership. With pages, you can transfer the ownership. With collections you build up on your profile, as it stands right now, you can't. Okay? Hold that thought. Now, a few extra things. Very important for you to know. Make notes if you haven't started. With communities, once you get 500 or more people in a community, you cannot change the name of that community unless you pull a lot of strings. And strings have been pulled around the place, but that is not, that they are superpowers to get that done. It's not going to be easy. So you want to make sure that you choose well from the start. Then be aware that right now you will transfer across your followers to a collection if you already have people following you as an individual. In other words, back to the circles principle. So if I have 1,000 followers and I create a new collection, those people will follow that collection as a default. Now they may decide to unfollow that collection, but they are transferred across right now. I think that's really important as a basic principle, because a lot of people have got these, have already got a following, and you can transfer that into these new collections. Last bit. You want to look at optimizing the name and the tagline because of search. What I'm saying is that what we have right now is increase of the following on niche topics that people are engaging a lot on because it's the stuff that they want. And if that is building up authority, just like we saw and we discussed it in relation to communities, and it's doing the same thing in relation to collections, then they may well start to surface in Google search, driving people back to Google+, to the content in Google+, potentially clicking through and visiting your website for all important posts. So you want to optimize the name and the tagline. But notice, I set this up by saying that after 500 people join a community, you can't change the name. Be aware, things change. We don't know what's going to happen. You want to make the best decisions for your authority long term now, because you might find that we can't change the name of collections and they may get locked down after a while. I don't know. But I'm just letting you know, make the best decisions that you can. Also, something else in relation to naming. If I put in 500, I looked at this guy share some pictures from a 500px. I noticed, okay, the first one that comes up is the page, but then, that's the red arrow, then the blue arrow is all the collections. And it's not the pages. These are people. They've jumped on the back of this brand. Hopefully it's the page's content, but this is a principle. This is for the word, or for the numbers, 500. It's not 500px. 500. So we've got a naming trend start to happen. And collections are being displayed before the green arrow, which is the communities relating to this. So have a think for yourself. Have an explore, go and search and see what Google is delivering and how it's actually displaying, first of all, the page and then collections over communities. I think that's really interesting. And now we're going to have a look at a new way of formatting posts, a new way I've been sort of approaching this and looking at how they are appearing when you reshare them or when other people reshare them. But before we get to that, because we're now down into the operational level, having looked at the tactics, I've got to tell you something. I'm sorry, Daz, Dr. Daz, who I'm showing here. You need to stop using the old Google+. I know. It's sad. But you have to, because it's not the experience that most people are having when they join, and it means, no matter how nostalgic you are, you're not actually taking the most of this opportunity. There's a few things that along the way we've got to deal with, got to sort of work around. But let's start at the bottom here. It's very much about mobile. It really is about mobile. And I've said that to adjust people's view away from being solely focused on desktop. I like using desktop. I use desktop. But mobile is what a lot of people, particularly a younger generation, are using to share content. But it's not just younger generation. We're increasingly mobile. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next one up, something about speed of sharing. You can share really quickly on a mobile when I show you this particular method. Which you'll know, but I just want to show you how it looks. Also on a desktop, it's quicker. It's super quick to share when you just reshare without putting a title, without putting a hat tip, moving on to that bit. In other words, without pinging people in, just sharing the content. Now, you're not going to want to do this unless you've got a network. Because one of the reasons why you hat tip or you plus mention people and you send them a message is in order to get their attention, to build the relationship, to bring them to your post, very often a reshare of their post, in order to really say, hey, I want to make my network look like your network. So what I'm about to show you, you can't do that. So you have to juggle. It's like, am I doing this to serve the network, or am I doing this to build the relationship in the initial phase? So before we come into the examples, let's just have a quick look at Android. You may not know this, so I just thought I'd show you. This is on my Samsung Galaxy S6. It's changing how we share, and what's happening is that when you share, and this could be sharing from like the next web, could be a website, what have you, things are changing. And for instance, let me just take you through the process. On Facebook, if I click, I get taken to a website, but it's kind of within a Facebook browser. I then have to open it in Chrome, and then I get the option to share like this. Otherwise, I drive people through to the Facebook post, which is very clever, Facebook. But once I get to the Chrome browser, and I click on share, the icon that appears is the last icon that I've shared to. So it could be to a Hangout, it could be to Drive, it could be to Inbox, whatever it is. But this share is almost our preference. It's a little reminder. So if we've shared there once, the phone is reminding us that we can share it there again. That might well influence our future behavior. You may or may not have this on your phone. Now, once I click that, I may well add a comment using voice. In other words, I just speak and it all appears. Now that might happen, but I've got to tell you, most of the time when I share, I'm not doing that right now. I might do, well, I am when I'm commenting, or sometimes I'll clickety-clack on the keypad, but very often I am simply sharing the content. And what is happening on a desktop is content is being encouraged to be shared across other platforms, all platforms. When you click to share, you get Google+, you get copy link, which you could pop in an email on it, Facebook and Twitter. That wasn't there a while ago. You will have seen this, but this is significant. And it's the same on photos, Google Photos. You spread the information across potentially other platforms. So Google's kind of liberating us. And the new Google Plus is, I think that the information is going to be spreading further and wider because of these system changes. Now, what this means is that you're going to want to be ready to build your network across all of the platforms. And I've been saying to Academy members for the last year, we have to be really present on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. And potentially others. Instagram is wonderful for a lot of people, but we've got to be present. Because if you're not there, then the network is. So sometimes you've got to go to where the influencers are, you build the relationships, increase the network reach. But let us return operationally. So you need a network in order to share the information. And let's return to Google+. I'm saying that you want to be looking at sharing across all platforms ideally and appropriately and connecting with the influencers there. But when you share, and let's look at Google Plus now, this is how the images appear with my photo, with my name, with the collection's name at the top of it when I use the new Google Plus. It doesn't have quite the same information as it used to. And let's look at this. It says that the title at the top, and then you've got the engagement at the bottom. And you can see, as I said, the place and me. It's clean. It's built for this. You can add a comment at the top. However, I think it's a glorious view when the image is good and the content is obviously relating to this image in this case. So in other words, I haven't put a comment at the top. I haven't put a title. I haven't put a hat tip. I've just shared either the blog post or I've shared their version of it. Now, when I look at an image that I've shared, this got good engagement, which was taking the tips from Sophie and I put it into an image and I kept it all Google branded and Google colors and it got 141 plus 1, 35 shares. Somebody even wants me to be president. Look at that. But the point is, images really matter. That's where a lot of your attention operationally should go, is how can you use the best images? How can you create the best images and make sure the ones that you share are great? Now, sometimes you might just share and accept that they're not going to be good, but if you share with a good image, then guess what? They will tend to fly if you've got a network. Let's look at another example. This is when I've reshared a post, and it happens to be from 500px. Not sponsored by them, by the way. It just happens that I like the images. This, again, it's beautiful. It doesn't need me to write text at the top of what am I going to say. And it gets good engagement. You can see the engagement down at the bottom. And I think this is a common theme, is things have changed. Now, if you haven't built relationships or you want to add a comment, please do. But I just want to show you this is very effective. Now, in terms of the nature of images, this didn't even have particularly attractive title, I don't think. Look at it. It's either a jellyfish or a brain. I'm not sure. It's a brain. But it's cool. It's fun. It's great. It's got dark around the tops and the sides and all that. But actually, it's a bright image, all in all. This gets engagement in its own right. I'm not even sure people read the article. Sometimes they just share because they enjoy the visual stimulation. They enjoy the, I guess, it's techie, geeky, because Google Plus, you've got to realise that tends to be a lot of the audience. But people want to respond by telling other people. So if you've got a good image, you make it easy for them to spread the word. Another one. Now, A/B testing tools. Let's have a look at this. 5 A/B testing tools. So obviously then on the image, we've got A and we've got B and we've got balance, because it's all about which one works best. So I shared this. It got 54 plus ones, but it got 27 shares. So that image, I think it could be a lot more. Wow, ooh, yeah. But it's still done the job very, very well for spreading the word for this particular company. Again, not sponsored, and it just happens that this serves the network with good content. Now, another example, great plus ones, great shares. It's a nice image. It's a lovely image, but when you look at it on a mobile in particular, it really did have a visual impact and a wow. Now, you probably know I share images of waves. I love the waves. And so, people are fairly used to that with me. But again, with you and your content, images matter. Make sure you pick the best ones that are going to fly. Happens to be, this was a Cataday one. Still doing Cataday. And it's a cute picture. It's not that wow. I mean, it has got something pretty cool about it. If you look at the rail that it's on, there's something about the perspective, how it lines up the road, and how all of those things. This is arty, is what I'm saying. But it got response because people related to it. That's really going to be the principle. If you relate, then you engage. So pick your images very carefully. But let's now look, staying with operations and operational things, at some other elements. With collections, you have the ability to subscribe. Subscribe means that people are going to get notification. They choose to do this. I did a little test. You can ask people to subscribe. You can do that. And people will. And it means that potentially they are going to get the notification, not just see it in the stream, and they're going to more actively engage. So have a play with that. Look at, does anybody else want to get this content first? Make sure you subscribe. And then send them through to the main collection, not the post, and tell them to click the little bell. Assume it's still a little bell. Okay, that's the first thing. Next thing, and that should get engagement up. Next thing, using hashtags. I don't use them so much anymore. I think you can. I think you should experiment, definitely. But if you think about it, the name of a collection is a bit like a hashtag. It's a bit like a theme. And the more niched you have it, the more that collection becomes known for that thing. And, little bit of history, Google removed auto-tagging of posts not far off the time that they launched collections. I don't think that's a coincidence. So I would say use them, experiment with them, find out. But more important, if you've got your network built, it's actually about building the relationships and having people around you that share your content and spreading that way. However, I do think they're important, but I also think that if you add a title or even the titles of the posts themselves, they will surface just with those keywords. I don't think people are searching for hashtags as much now, but explore. Okay. I mentioned this about cross-platform sharing. If photos, I would say yes, right? Really do. Google Plus Posts, let me just put a little caveat on operational stuff. It may not be that relevant. I see this happening a bit, is that people are just auto-posting across to Facebook, but they're not necessarily nurturing that Facebook community as a different community that exists as part of an overarching network to which they belong. You can pause the video and listen to that bit again. What you want to do is serve the community with the right content. And I would say just be cautious with pushing the posts themselves across unless they're right. Also, right for them to see. Also, make sure that the way they look, the formatting, is good, both on a desktop and a mobile over on Facebook. Because otherwise, you're probably going to find that people are just going to unfollow you on Facebook and they just won't see the content in their stream there. Right then, formatting of posts. Having said that I am sharing a lot without doing any of this, I still want to show you, just because I feel it's important. I still do use this. I will still use the bold, I'll still use the underscore, which turns it into italics, and then write some text when I want to add more personal context within the post that I share. So I still think it's important, but be aware that it may not be as important as it used to be, particularly if the content in its own right is something that people will engage with. But that is still how you format. So then, this is the question. Because we are in a masterclass, and you're going to want to know this. Do headings still lead to personalized search results for posts? In other words, when I format it like this, does that still enable the post to surface for those keywords that I've added in the heading to the people who are following me? And the answer, you can see, is on the screen. Yes, it does. So if you search for Go Mobile, with Google, you'll see that those keywords have surfaced, and my face is next to it, and that's the Google Plus post. That is what I wrote, and it's surfaced in search. Headings are still surfacing in search. But what about when I just reshare a post without the headings being added? These will show for the keywords of the post as well in Google.com results. Look. So the post I have here, Life, Universe, Everything, for the tech that will change your life. Look at the title, the tech that will change your life. All I did is share the blog post. And it's surfaced for those keywords. And you can see for Mary, it's surfaced as well. And in fact, it's drawn out on Mary's life-changing tech, which is quite interesting because there's synonyms, that's the word, in there too. So I think that that's hopefully a bit of extra understanding with how things are being indexed there. But let's have an example, another example, when a post gets surfaced for both the heading I added and the page it points to, in other words, the Google blog post actually, website. Here's the one I put at the top. Achievement unlocked, I'm a level 4 guide. That's what I put, and I put that at the top of the post on Google+. It's surfaced then. And these aren't, oh wow, great search results. This is more about the principle. But Google Local Guide Level 4 is what the post, well rather what the blog post was titled. So that's what I added, and that's what the blog post was titled. And guess what? It surfaced as well for that. Very interesting. Now, another aspect is other people using keywords works on reshares. What I mean by that is this. When somebody else has used the great 2016 Google Plus Gold Rush, which is what I used in an image, and I just shared the image, and I'm going to come back to that text in a sec, it surfaced in images on the first page. I didn't share that. They put that as a title. And GIF Your Vid took it into search, into image search. So this is about the power of being part of a network. In other words, people or other people spreading the word, taking your content into search. Again, hopefully you can see I'm starting to pull this together. It's all about the network, the appropriate content, formatting. You can get a double whammy possibly out of it or not, but the information must flow. Okay. Moving away from search and looking at another operational thing about pinning posts to the top of your collection. So you do that, you click on the upper right of the 3 little dots of a post and you have the option to pin post to unpin posts from there. Question is it worth it? Does it work? The answer is yes, it does. People go to the collections and the first post that is sitting at the top will get engagement. I continue to get engagement using this method. It's a great way. This was a sponsored post from one of our partners, great to us. And this was a very effective way of saying, hey, this is what's going on this week, this month, this duration. Hope you can be part of it. And please check out the content. Pinning posts is a really useful thing to do, but you don't have to pin the same one all the time. And I say if you stop getting any engagement at all, track it, measure it, and work out whether you should be pinning a new, fresh one. Real basic stuff here, but still very important. Engage if you want engagement. Saying thank you to people still really matters. It matters to them. Also, and this is something that has been lost a little bit along the way, is when a person shares something and you go and say thank you on that version of the share, and you might have to go and track it down a little bit, which you could search for the keywords, or you may see the reshare and you have to go to their profile. But when that happens and you go and say thank you, add them to circles. Make sure you connect with them. You might just follow the stuff, the collections being the stuff, but add them to circles. Make them feel connected with you. That's certainly something that I still do and I would recommend. They will get a notification and they will feel a warm and fuzzy feeling. They've shared your content, you've added them to circles, you've kind of completed the loop. Now, circles. Circles and permission marketing. This was my most favorite thing in the world about Google+. It really was. And, of course, about the people. But in terms of system stuff, it was the circles. Circles used to be a way to organize your contacts. It still is. Okay. Circles used to be a way to send niche opt-in messages to people. It's not so much anymore. And I'd actually say, because it's not so much anymore, people are not organising their contacts in the same way to the same extent that they used to. So it still is a way, and it's kind of useful if you are an important organizer of information. I say important is, if it's important to you, then still do it. I think I still use circles, but I don't think that the methods of trying to build niche opt-in circles is really the way to go long term. However, you can still very much use the collections in a similar way. You can ask people to opt in, you can engage. Also, I spent a lot more time applying the methods that I know to email and getting back to that. But it is certainly be a way things have changed. But let's lean toward David Amland on this one. Even though you can't notify people by circle anymore, because we tend not to be doing quite so much of that, and people might get a little irritated if you keep doing it, because, well, we'll come to the why in a second. But what David says is, have some faith in your own stuff, content. If it's of value to me, he says, I will see it. That is how, somebody who's very mature in the network now is seeing the flow of information. It's okay, folks. Things have changed. We may not be able to do circles in the same way, but we've got the network now. It's been long enough that we can, help each other and hopefully see the content in our stream. Or if you really need to, you can plus mention people. But I wanted to remind you in the new platform how you do set a circle and how you do create a circle. And I'll explain why. How to create, so go to people, click on following there, and then click on new circle, which is down at the bottom. This is on a desktop version, and you can create a circle. I think it's still a reasonable method to add people in and to pay more attention to those that pay more attention to you. I think that's a good method, actually. But let's now talk a little more on this, because permission marketing, the idea is that you give me permission and I'm allowed then to market to you. So I've still used this method to connect with people who are nearest and dearest. But here's the issue. There's no easy opt-out. So if I create a circle and I say, I'm going to send you some really super cool content, and you'll receive it and you're going to get an email. Lots of people may say yes, and I might send 2 or 3 emails. I might say to the people, I'm going to send you 2 or 3 emails, and it's going to be via Google Plus, because that goes into the inbox. And people say, yeah, that's great. Now, I might say, I may well send you the occasional extra email. People might respond with, oh, I don't want that extra email, but I don't want to tell Martin because that's going to upset him, but I don't want to see it anymore. So I'll mute Martin. Don't mute me, okay. But I'll mute you because I don't want to have the conversation about opting out of that circle. That was always a problem, and we knew that was a problem. Collections gets around that now because people can just subscribe or unsubscribe. Pretty cool, because it's in their control as to what they see a lot more than in your control. So that is a really good step. But we still got to find ways of kind of getting high level amplification on content. So one of the ways to do this is to use private communities. And I think this is a really good way of building your tribe if you only want to use Google+. I like private communities. I think if people have the notifications switched on, then it works very, very well. We are using, in the Academy, we're actually using Slack, because I went for platform agnostic, because I've got a lot of people now sort of engaged on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. So I wanted to have somewhere that anybody could join and feel at home. But I do think the private communities are very, very good, especially if you want people to share their content. Remember, communities allow people to share their content or to ask you questions. So I like private communities. I think that they're still very, very good. Private community there, actually that's where the Academy was. The thing to bring to mind is always notifications. If people have the notifications switched on for a community, everyone receives a notification for the new posts that are made. Doesn't matter who makes them. And what can happen is people can switch them off. which is like an opt-out but being part of a community. That is, you won't know except that your engagement's going to go right down. So you being open about it, it's a bit like having a list and nobody actually opening any of your emails. Yeah, so again, challenge the process. Be aware that the tools that you use, what really matters is the results that you're getting. Just to show you, if you on a desktop and you click into community settings and then you go into community notifications, get notified about new posts, that's where you're going to have to click it. So encouraging members to have this on from the start is a good move. Okay, and the idea of having in this particular session the communities and collections is I want to give you options. I want to show you a few of the tools and the tips that I've used along the way to bring the attention to the content that then you want to get amplified over time. And this brings it slightly more in your control, but all you can do is hope and instruct and see what happens on that one. You won't actually know if they switch it off. Okay, that's where you do it. Last bit, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about collections, talking about Google Photos now. And look, there's collections there. Now, I think that we are not at the final complete stage of evolution for all of this. Let's go back a step. Collections, communities. I think that there's a great similarity. I think collections may well become in time shared, so that other people can share content into collections. If that happens, they look strikingly similar to communities. So let's just wait and see. Rewind that bit again. Maybe in time, collections will become shared collections, which looks a lot like communities. Okay, which is why I've been saying to you that you want to be aware that maybe there's some transfer of ownership things that could happen in the future. I don't know. Let's see. Now, if photos have got collections already, that's very intentional from Google. So maybe they're lining things up that there's going to be a complete play around collections and more integration. Nothing for you to do, nothing for you to worry about. All I'd say is watch this space, and more integration is good. By the way, that's Benji. Look at that. There's a little face down at the bottom. Okay, ladies and gents, we are at the end. We looked at, just to recap, how getting a collection featured by Google could give you a real boost in terms of numbers and also potentially engagement. We looked at setting up appropriate collections to build your authority. We also discussed building authority from a profile or a page. We looked at the relationship with communities, and we looked at the relationships with search and communities. So you can see a little bit of history there. We looked then at how you can be flexible on how you format your posts with or without titles, for instance, and the relationship with Google search of each of the posts and the types of doing it. In other words, with or without titles and whether they surface in the personalized search results. And also how to approach increasing engagement now, question of circles or not, and also asking people to subscribe to collections, or it could be by using private communities and people having notifications on. And I'm sure we covered a lot more too. Finally, let me just say, collections will really help you niche, help you focus, and niche means authority, which is the name of the game. So that is the end. What is your next action step? How are you going to apply this information? Ready? 1, 2, 3, start taking action now. And if you have any comments, questions, I'm martin@plusyourbusiness.com, and I look forward to hearing from you. And you never know, but there may be a next phase in the authority building process that I can help you with as well. Look forward to seeing you next time.